What's up, everyone? Welcome back to Creative Director Studio. Remember, Creative Director Studio is the place to stay inspired and stay motivated to take your career to the next level.
Absolutely, Corey. And today we're excited to have you here because this is the first part of a two-part conversation that you and I recently had talking all about collaboration. And why collaboration is essential to our careers in creative and to the creative process. And more importantly, we go into in this conversation what happens when collaboration is not there.
Collaboration is key to take your career to the next level, and you do not want to miss this conversation or any future conversations. So go ahead and hit that bell, like, and subscribe because we have a lot of great stuff to talk about.
Why you think collaboration is important in the creative process? It's a big
Well,
question.
yeah,
Go.
it's a pretty loaded question because I think about this all the time, and then also think about my own personal career journey coming up. There's this reluctancy that we go through as designers, as creatives, and as we're moving up in our career, we get this kind of misconception that collaboration, more inputs on the work that we do, is a bad thing. And that's really just the absolute opposite. I think you need a healthy dose of collaboration and to make your work better, to push you further as a designer. And I think that sometimes we hold our projects, hold our design pieces too close to us. And I think a lot of that comes from this idea of when you start off your journey as a creative, a designer, often a designer, you're in a way you're an artist, right? And you create this work, you look at it as a work of art. It's my masterpiece. And I think that that's a little bit deviates a little bit from the whole concept of design being for problem solving. And so you really do need you need inputs. You just need lots of varying inputs from a lot of different people.
Yes, I agree with you. I think it is interesting, not revealing our young ages to the audiences. I do think the young designers, whatever that means, it is a little bit of a different world than what I know I saw when I first came out of school and got my first jobs. We were always looking for ways to talk about things, collaborate, learn about even technical problems with computers and how to deal with the apps and softwares and all those things. You just collaborated from the very beginning. And so it was just part of the process back in the day. And I do think now there is this interesting trend, as you said, where it is this feeling that you almost have to do everything yourself if you're a designer. And I know we're speaking to a lot of different kinds of people. We have people that are likely in house. Maybe you are working by yourself. Many of you, I do know, are working at agencies or maybe doing your own freelance. And so the reality is you may not have people that are being paid literally to sit around you and collaborate with, but that does not mean you don't have people to collaborate with. And I think that just because you're a designer in-house, for example, possibly at a company or a nonprofit, collaboration is still key for you as well. It doesn't mean that you have to figure that all out on your own. And I think even thinking about people that we've met throughout, our careers, many people have felt that way to me or have come to me and said, hey, I'm in house and I don't know what to do. I'm burning out. I've run out of ideas. The only people to collaborate with are other business people, developers, whatever it is. They don't have creative people in house. And I think that's a really scary place to be because if you don't have the collaboration, then you start just making the same ideas over and over and over. And that's just recipe for burnout.
Very true. Very true. And I
Yeah.
think that
Yeah.
when it comes to collaboration, you have to almost set aside that the input has to be from somebody who's like-minded, somebody who shares your thoughts and points of view. The biggest growth point is whenever you're bringing in diverse perspectives. They're going to approach the work from, a lot of times it's more like a consumer would approach it. They're going to see it for the first time. How does it make them feel? Now, we all know that not all feedback is good feedback, and that's why the saying exists. Take it with a grain of salt. But what you have to do is you have to really allow people to give their gut reactions to the thing that you've designed. And then your job as the designer is to distill what feedback you want to consider, what is valid, what makes sense, what strengthens the overall design. And so I actually personally, I'm one of those designers who's worked in house for a large amount of my career where I was the only real designer in house. And there's a lot of pressure when it comes, there's a lot of pressure with that. And the other side of it is you do lose out on that peer to peer feedback that is really crucial. But I really just reached out to the people in the organizations and I sought out that feedback. I didn't care if they were in accounting department or if they were the janitor. I would show them my work and I'd be like, hey, what do you think of this? What is it, how does this make you feel? And we talked about this in the past, this idea of building in the soul and emotion in your piece. And sometimes that just comes from really asking people who you normally wouldn't ask about how they feel about the thing you've created. There was a janitor that worked at my last job, and I would work late all the time. I felt like I ended up hitting my stride at the end of the day. So we often cross paths. And the funny thing is, he was so curious about what I was doing, the kind of work I did. And it was so funny. I would just like, hey, this is what I'm working on. I'm doing a logo. And he would just be so curious. He was like, because it was a different concept for him. And I explained what it is. And we talked about products. We talked about things you eat. There's always a logo. But it was so fun. And the most rewarding thing in that experience is he gave me feedback about things that I would have never thought of. I would have never been exposed to had I asked somebody who was really close to the project, worked at the company, or who was just, like me, a designer. And that was one of the moments where I realized the value of collaboration, the value of sharing your ideas. You want to build depth, you want to build dimension and range to your work, and I think that's the best way to do it. Is surprise yourself, just challenge yourself, I should say, and just ask for feedback.
Right. So the message I'm hearing: everyone needs to talk to the janitor or
Yes.
the building maintenance in your condo or apartment community. I'm kidding. It would be funny actually if he ended up being a designer at this point, which you should check in with him and see if he is.
I should check on him.
Because I think it's a two-way street as well with collaboration. Because I can speak from example that whether I've involved other designers or creative people in collaboration, or like you said, people that are more likely in the actual audience that you're speaking to, consumers or whatever, it doesn't matter whether they're creative, working in creative or not. I think it's exciting for those people to give feedback. And I really never met anyone that if you ask them nicely and of course don't take too much of their time, they're really excited to give feedback.
Oh yeah.
People love sharing ideas. And I think it can be a two-way street where getting the feedback and collaborating with people across the board does kind of create this human connection, if you will, or this idea of, you're building something together. And I just think as humans, we're just wired that way. And it's interesting when you look at the pandemic and how we moved through the first year, 2020, and even into 21 last year, and how people found ways to do that. Of course, I'm so thankful we have technology. We had it during that time, that we were able to do it remotely, but people found ways to do that. And actually, a whole other topic that I think we can talk about in another episode is how we solve that problem and how now there are new ways to collaborate that I believe really birthed from the lockdown and then post-lockdown, and people just finding ways to do that. So that's an exciting topic as well, which proves to me that people really want that. And I believe that whether or not you don't seek it every day as a creative, I believe, as humans, we want that. And I think once you kind of tap into that collaboration, you start to realize how much better your work is and also how much better it feels.